In a world that moves fast, it's easy to overlook the quiet moments where people stop and look out for each other.
I guess that's rural America for you. Most people, look out for the neighbor next door.
We see that spirit in everyday places where kindness shows up without being asked.
We wouldn't have this if it hadn't been for the kindness of complete strangers.
It reminds us that the best stories aren't written in headlines, they're written in the way people treat one another.
You know, it's not lost on me. In my mind, she saved my life.
Right now, we're looking back at the people who didn't wait for a reason to help. They simply saw a need and answered it. The ones who made our community better by making a difference. Thanks for joining us. On most nights, you see me on the news covering stories that can often feel heavy. But tonight, we're shining a light on something else: the hope, the kindness, and the quiet good happening all around us. For the next 30 minutes, we invite you and your family to sit back, relax, and enjoy some of the stories that remind us who we can be at our very best. Our first story takes us to Wentzville, where a World War II Purple Heart miraculously defied a metal shredder and then, thanks to the kindness of strangers, found its way home to a grateful family. At Scrap Mart Metals in Jonesburg, Missouri, they turn metal into memories. But one memory just wouldn't melt. Every month, 14,000 tons of twisted steel pass through here. Cars, copper, and cast-offs are ground up, sorted, and forgotten.
When you shred a car will come out in tiny little pieces in 90 seconds.
But on one recent day, a glint of gold and purple caught the eye of picker Patrick Bloom.
The purple stood out the most. It stood out like a sore thumb.
What Patrick pulled from that conveyor belt was a World War II Purple Heart, completely intact, which defied all logic.
We get coins through this thing because, cars have coins in them, right. and they're unrecognizable. Quarters are bent in half, and this thing's completely whole. The ribbon's still on.
There was a name etched on the back, just enough for Lucas and his staff to launch a mission. They turned detective, building family trees on Ancestry.com until they found Katie Kriedemeyer.
He told me that it had gone through the scrapper and that it had survived when things like coins and other things hadn't survived.
This is class of 1944.
The Purple Heart belonged to Charles Joseph Hall, who was a cousin and grew up in the same house as Katie's grandmother.
He had brown eyes.
Katie's dad was named for Charles Joseph.
He enlisted right out of high school and wanted to be a paratrooper, but they moved him to infantry, and then went to Europe and was killed 6 months later.
The family knew about the medal, but couldn't find it until now.
My mom lived in Warren County, and she had a car in her driveway that was no longer drivable, so she sold it to a guy down in the little town she lived by at the garage for spare parts and scrap.
And the Purple Heart must have been in the car.
And the dedication of those in the industry who handle them.
To honor the journey, Scrap Mart didn't just hand it over. They flew the family to San Diego to their national convention to return a nation's gratitude.
We were like celebrities there. It was like people coming up to us and wanting to meet us and take pictures of the medal and take pictures of us with the medal. And for them to make this big deal out of it, it was really cool.
The medal now sits safely in the family's hands. Decades late, but somehow right on time.
We wouldn't have this if it hadn't been for the kindness of complete strangers.
In a scrapyard full of shattered parts, one small medal held on, not just through steel, but through time, waiting to finally come home.
I think it was definitely meant to be, that's for sure.
Charles Joseph Hall is buried in an American military cemetery in Belgium, where a woman named Claudia has been caring for his grave through an adopted grave program for the past 5 years. Well, there's a man in St. Louis whose name used to mean trouble. Now it means something entirely different. In our next Making a Difference report, how one father's second chance became hundreds of second chances.
Always good to see you, Mr.
No doubt,
Yes,
no
sir,
doubt.
yes.
At a St. Louis barber shop, the cuts are close and the connections closer.
Barbershop always have been our sacred place, man.
But today, it's not just a fresh cut these men are leaving with. It's a challenge and maybe a second chance.
How's everybody doing? What's up, brothers? How's everybody doing?
Because sitting in the center of it all is Reginald Slaughter,
It's hard, man. It's really hard.
a man once known for trouble, now better known for turning it around.
He became highly aware that he needed to make a change, and he began to walk in that change and make a difference.
How you doing? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Reginald Slaughter's second chance didn't come in a flash. It came in the silence that follows heartbreak.
The second time I was in prison, I lost my mother, who always believed that I could do something more than go to prison. So it flipped the script in something in me.
He served time for selling drugs, but the harder part came after getting out. He wanted to be in his daughter's life, but her mother wasn't so sure.
I was still a little rough around the edges, in the streets, so she didn't want no parts of that, right?
You do not know what to expect from one day to the next.
That's when he heard about a 6-week parenting program at the Fathers and Family Support Center.
What about the people that's in your life?
What he thought would teach him how to be a better dad ended up teaching him how to be a better person.
They talk to you about your childhood, who raised you, your relationship with your mother, your relationship with your father, the lessons you learned, what it is to be a man.
It didn't just change his outlook, it changed his outcome.
When people change.
Because once Reginald stopped running from his past, he started walking toward his purpose.
He was willing to be a responsible man in the community. He was willing to work on himself and continue to grow.
He went from student to volunteer to full-time employee. He's now the support center's community outreach coordinator. And with new recruits, his criminal record isn't a liability, it's his credential.
Hey man, I'm an ex-felon. The program was created by an ex-felon. But you're a father most of all, and that's important.
It's how he reached Marvin Davis, a young man drifting who only needed someone to draw a line.
It's his loyalty, it's his dedication, and it's his spirit on the community, and plus being an active father.
Marvin went through the program, rebuilt his life. He's now a full-time dad and makes a living making people laugh as a full-time comedian.
She said, Father God, bless his license plates, that when the police get behind him, allow the letters to scramble.
Marvin's set ends with laughter.
I said, Pastor, I still need my gas money.
But his story started with someone who believed in him.
He's one of my mentors. He is one of my mentors.
How the children doing, man?
Children are doing good, getting bigger.
These days, Mr. Slaughter in the Streets, as he's known, hopes to lift men up, not lead them astray.
Hey, brother, have you heard about Father Support Center, man?
He's not trying to outrun his past. He's rewriting it.
That's the greatest feeling in the world for me. I have a life that's really productive in my own community that I once was a problem in, and now I'm a part of the solution. He said the best barbershop in the city, baby. I said, okay.
The best barbershops offer more than a cut. They offer wisdom.
We got to do it because we men and human beings that love our children.
And on this day, it was delivered by a man who proves every day that your worst chapter doesn't have to be your last. And Marvin Davis, that comedian Reginald mentored, he was named the Support Center's Father of the Year and threw out the first pitch at a Cardinals game. In farm country, the distance between neighbors is measured in acres, but in times of need, it's measured in minutes. Next up, we take you to Clinton County, Illinois, where neighbors become family. In Carlisle, Illinois, the strongest roots aren't found in the soil. No one knew that better than Kevin Campworth, who spent his days working at the local oil company, while his heart worked the land.
He definitely loved farming. That's what he grew up with, but it also is part of him.
For 43 years, he balanced both lives. Then fate handed him a gift when his daughter Whitney married John, a farmer's son himself. Together, they worked these fields of corn, soybeans, and wheat, developing their own special language.
He would give me hand signals in the field if we would pass, trying to tell me what to do. A lot of times I didn't really understand it, but it's just a little joke we had.
If you had to describe your dad and the type of person he was, how would you do that?
Very hardworking, kind, and generous. I'm sorry.
This past autumn, the unthinkable happened. Whitney got the call no family ever wants to receive.
My dad was farming, harvesting a field, and was in an accident.
As the family wrestled with their devastating loss, 140 acres of soybeans stood silent in the fields. But before darkness could settle, the phone started ringing.
The first thing that came to my mind is, we need to go check out the family, make sure everybody's okay, and then, let's try to help get his crops out.
What happened next left even lifetime farmers speechless. The morning sky filled with the rumble of engines as 15 neighbor farmers left their own harvest behind and pointed their machines toward the Campworth fields.
There was 5 combines pulled in, and we had 4 semis hauling grain and 2 grain carts to help handle the grain during harvest.
A task that would have taken Kevin and John weeks to complete was done in just hours.
I guess that's rural America for you. Most people, look out for the neighbor next door.
You can have differences, at a bar or something talking around, but, when some tragedy happens, that's put on the wayside.
And the tribute wasn't finished. At Kevin's funeral, a line of antique tractors, the kind he loved to restore, stood guard outside the church. And with each passing day, Lou Alice discovers new chapters of her husband's quiet generosity, written in the memories of neighbors.
It just reassures me that we chose the exact place we should live, that Clinton County is very neighborly but loving and are willing to just go the extra mile, just like my husband was.
That's this kind of guy he was. He dropped what he was doing.
In the equipment shed where Kevin spent his happiest hours, friends now gather to share stories.
He would offer help all day, bring fuel out.
Kevin approached this man who was homeless and said, obviously you're hungry. He said, come with me.
Each one a reminder of why they dropped everything to help.
Kevin was the fella that did that for a lot of people that was never noticed. He did a lot of...
And didn't want to be noticed.
Didn't want to be noticed.
They say you can tell a lot about a farmer by looking at his fields. But in Clinton County, Illinois, they know a farmer's true worth grows not in his crops, but in the neighbors who harvest his legacy.
The generosity was overwhelming.
And those tractors at Kevin's funeral weren't just any tractors. They were the same ones he'd spend weekends restoring, which was his passion. We did this next story on Memorial Day weekend, and as we've learned over the years, sometimes the most powerful tributes come from the hearts of young people. Next, we take you to an Illinois high school where students discovered that a World War II veteran's wartime loss became their chance to give something back. At Alton Marquette High School, students are assembling to honor a sacrifice made long ago and discovering that even after 80 years, some debts of gratitude can still be repaid.
Oh, say, can you see?
The guest of honor, Robert Ryan, class of 1941.
So let us begin with a prayer.
Whose journey from these halls would take him to places these students can scarcely imagine.
Okay.
Even at 101 years old,
insurance policy,
Robert Ryan still reports to his downtown Alton law office each morning.
A 1099.
Having long since filed a motion to dismiss the very concept of retirement.
I hear that retirement isn't all that great. Who wants to look at television? Except for news.
Yes, except for news. But before legal briefs in courtrooms,
mutual fund report,
Ryan was fighting for our freedom high above Nazi Germany. He was a navigator on the B-17 bomber. On his 5th mission, his crew was in the crosshairs of German gunners below and fighter pilots above, and his luck ran out. Captured on German soil, Ryan would endure the remainder of the war as a prisoner, where hunger became a dangerous enemy. And one day, an opportunity for an unusual trade presented itself at the fence line.
There was a Russian there on the other side of the barbed wire, and he had a can of sardines, and I was hungry.
So Ryan traded his class ring for a tin of sardines, a moment when necessity outweighed nostalgia.
It wasn't doing me any good.
Some of the awards.
Now, decades later, the school decided history deserved a different ending.
So we are pleased to be able to give back to you today a new class ring from the class of 1941.
For the students, history stepped from the pages of a book into real life.
Well, thank you very much.
And with characteristic wit, his assessment of the replacement compared to the original?
The original ring was worth a can of sardines. This one's probably worth more. Maybe 2 cans.
In this high school gymnasium, the circle is now complete.
May God bless each of you, On Explorers. Thank you.
Proof that a ring once traded for survival now holds its worth not in carats, but in character.
It was an honor, frankly, and I appreciated it very much.
And Robert Ryan was liberated from that German prison camp by General Patton's Third Army on April 29, 1945. What if your family history hid a connection to one of history's darkest chapters? One woman's search for her roots led to an unexpected encounter, bridging decades and continents. In our next report, a story that shows how confronting the past can illuminate the future.
Oscar!
Hi! In the shadows of history, an extraordinary encounter unfolds.
Those are just kids right around your age, huh?
Oscar Jacob is a Holocaust survivor, and Suzanne Rico is a journalist.
We have pictures like that of our whole family.
The granddaughter of a Nazi engineer, part of a past she spent years trying to ignore.
I didn't want to look at it. I mean, that's the honest truth, is I was just like, yeah, no, don't need to go there.
But it was Germany's V-1 bomb, a harbinger of destruction, that would unexpectedly bridge 2 families across time. Robert Lusser, Suzanne's grandfather, was the brilliant mind behind the V-1's design, but his legacy would intersect with a young boy's fight for survival. At just 13 years old, Oscar found himself in the Mittelbau-Dora concentration camp. Upon arrival, a fellow prisoner advised him to lie about his age.
He says, tell him you're 16, 17-year-old. And that saved my life. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here talking to you, because 15-year-old and under, we all ended up in the gas chamber.
As it turned out, the 13-year-old was forced to drill rivets for the very weapon designed by Suzanne's grandfather.
And I had to produce between 450 to 500 in 12 hours, which was very tedious, it was very difficult, and if you didn't produce that much, there was punishment. From Dobro we went from...
Now, decades later, these 2 souls from opposite sides of history's divide would meet in an extraordinary journey of understanding and bearing witness.
Wow.
The only reason I have this picture...
For Oscar, the meeting stirred memories of a childhood stolen and a family lost.
It has been tough.
For Suzanne, it was a chance to finally confront her family's history and use her skills as a journalist and podcaster to shed light on the dangers of hatred.
You know, I wasn't even born in Germany. I wasn't even born for 20 years after World War II. But my family played a part in that. And I am deeply sorry for what that's worth.
What her grandfather did has nothing to do with her. I was very impressed that she is interested to know the truth, what was going on.
The truth Suzanne sought was complex. After the war, Lusser was among the German scientists brought to the United States to work on the space program.
My grandfather wasn't all good and he wasn't all bad. And he made some very good choices and some very bad choices. He fought for his family and for his children. He also built war machines for the Nazis. I'm so sorry, Oscar.
Nobody ever said sorry to me. And I love you for it.
In a world still grappling with the echoes of hatred, this unlikely friendship stands as a testament to the power of confronting the past.
Is there a better ending for my story than that? I don't think so.
A living reminder that even in the darkest chapters of history, there's always hope for understanding and the promise for a better future.
Thank you for allowing me in your life.
Suzanne told me that part of this journey in doing her podcast is to ensure that the lessons we learn from survivors like Oscar are not forgotten. At the Olivet Diner off Olive Boulevard, every order comes with a side of something special. In our next story, how a waitress's past career became the perfect recipe when a regular customer's life was suddenly on the line.
Everything tasting great? Perfect.
At the Olivet Diner, the menu offers breakfast and lunch, but the special of the day turned out to be something you can't put a price on. The griddles have been sizzling here since 1958.
I have peach, cherry, butterscotch.
Melinda de Blasi and her husband are only the third owners of this St. Louis area institution where time seems to stand still.
It's an old, original 1950s diner. It's cash only. It's the smash burgers. It's everything that you would envision.
But the real staple on the menu, a sense of belonging.
Would you like a side of spinach as well?
Melinda doesn't just take orders, she takes care of people.
Your kids good?
Treating every customer like family.
We have the best customers in the entire world. In fact, some of our customers have been coming here since 1958.
One of those regulars is Dan Carroll. At 75, he's practically part of the furniture, always ordering the same thing, a number 4. Which is 2 eggs over easy with hash browns.
And either 2 sausage patties or ham slice in sourdough toast.
A breakfast as predictable as the sunrise. But on this particular morning, something happened that no one saw coming.
And I looked at Dan and I said, Dan, more coffee. And he didn't respond, and I looked and he was slumped over.
So Melinda felt his pulse, and he didn't have one.
I have a little nursing history. 15 years ago, I was an ICU nurse. So I guess everything just came back a little.
Richard McLaughlin was sitting at the counter when he heard the urgency in Melinda's voice.
I got up and was heading to the restroom, and all I had heard was Melinda yell my name once and yelled it again.
As Richard called 911, Melinda took control. She eased Dan onto the floor and started compressions.
After a couple more compressions, I got some breaths, some agonal breathing from Dan, which was wonderful.
The paramedics arrived and rushed Dan to the hospital.
You guys good?
And then Melinda did what diner owners do.
Would you like more coffee, Mike?
She picked up the coffee pot and went back to work.
Here you go.
But everyone around her knew they'd witnessed something extraordinary.
I looked at all the customers and they were all crying. They were all crying and they were like, oh my goodness, we watched you save him.
Just a week later, proof of the miracle walked right through the diner's front door once again.
I was really, really lucky that she was here.
When I saw him walking into the door, I started crying. I got teary-eyed. And he walked in and I gave him the biggest hug he's probably ever had.
I hugged her. And said, thank you. Thank you very much. She, you know, it's not lost on me. In my mind, she saved my life.
Doctors told Dan that severe dehydration caused his collapse. Now he's drinking more water and soaking up every extra day.
I think I did what anyone would have done had they had the same knowledge that I did.
Richard, who helped that day, says Melinda is absolutely a hero.
Oh, 100%. That's, you know, the right people in the right place at the right time.
At the Olivet Diner, they still make food the old-fashioned way.
Well, it's good to see you, Dan.
See you later, man.
Please take care of yourself.
I will.
But as their customers know, the most important thing they serve here doesn't come on a plate. And the Olivet Diner has another claim to fame. The album cover for rock band Head East was shot inside the restaurant back in the 1970s. Sometimes hardship is life's way of showing us our purpose. Our next story is about a St. Louis family who turned their own moment of need into a never-ending mission to help their neighbors. One meal, one cabinet, and hundreds of hearts at a time.
Just soup, snacks.
Sometimes life's greatest struggles inspire its greatest gifts.
Gone by later tonight.
Yeah.
Where one act of kindness becomes something extraordinary.
If we have the means to help, we should.
Behind the Weisbrod family home in St. Louis's Dogtown neighborhood stands the Little Free Pantry, a 24-hour lifeline for anyone in need of food, personal care items, or simply a moment of comfort. And it all started with a cabinet and a crisis. Jerry Weisbrod spent 10 years as a physical therapist at St. Louis University until he was diagnosed with a brain tumor.
The surgery has left him completely disabled and unable to practice.
The family found themselves struggling, turning to a local food pantry for help. Then, years later, during the pandemic, Teresa Weisbrod decided to transform their own experience with hardship into hope for others.
And I just posted in the neighborhood, and I would say, I'm going to have 8 meals available. Well, people are messaging, and pretty soon it's like, 12 people need a meal, and it's like, well, I can stretch this farther.
Those home-cooked meals for neighbors soon evolved into something bigger. Using salvaged cabinets and their own creativity, the Weisbrods built more than just a pantry. They created a gathering place for the soul.
What I've been really trying to do since day one with this is not just have it as, a place for desperate people to come, but I want it to be a community area too.
In addition to food, the pantry is a library filled with free books, personal care items, and hot coffee that's always brewing. Their son Joe, who works in a hospital emergency room, knows why every item matters.
I see some of the hardest hit people in the city working in the emergency room, There's so many people that just need food, have nothing, absolutely nothing.
When supplies run low, the community steps up.
Somebody has just put all this in.
A simple Facebook post or a note on their Amazon wish list brings an outpouring of donations.
Within 24 hours, the pantry's filled up. People are dropping stuff on the front porch, on the back porch. The neighborhood businesses are calling.
I want to let you know how much you're appreciated. You're the best.
And the true measure of their impact lives in the notes of gratitude left behind.
This is amazing. What an act of loving kindness. You are the change we need in this world. Pretty nice.
Yeah. Thank you so much for all you do for everyone. You bring so much joy and happiness. You are an angel.
For Jerry, who knows how quickly life can change,
these go back a couple of years.
He's glad that their family's gesture touches so many lives.
It kind of choked me up.
It chokes you up.
Yeah.
Once you start and you see all these notes, you can't stop. How could you stop? And some soup, chicken noodle.
Oh, I got some more chips.
Okay.
What began as one family's moment of need has become a neighborhood's mission of giving.
And this is our first aid drawer.
In Dogtown, they've discovered that when you feed the hungry, you nourish the soul of an entire community.
If you'd like to help stock the Little Free Pantry, just search for Dogtown Givers Wish List on Amazon. Some people spend their whole lives searching for treasure. Cal Blank found some treasure worth thousands and gave it all away. In our next story, how one Missouri boy's discovery became someone else's miracle.
You're Cal? Come here. Oh, you don't know how special you are to me.
Some hugs say hello. This one says thank you in a way words never could.
One more hug.
You're watching a reunion between two people who've never met.
Right, what could it be?
But they're bound by one extraordinary act of kindness. More on that in a moment, but first, let's go back to where this all started. In the parking lot of a Costco, there's always a sea of shopping carts and hurried lives. But where most people see pavement, one boy sees possibility.
He has been a finder of things since he was old enough to walk.
It's some sort of metal.
While other kids are looking at their phones,
It's a fly with a fungus.
10-year-old Cal Blank
It's a nut with a face.
likes to look down.
Well, I just have an eye for things that are shiny.
He finds pennies, nickels, quarters, lots of quarters. In Cal's world, the lost becomes found
Somewhere in here.
and the tossed becomes treasure. So when Dad took Cal and his little brother to Costco on a Saturday morning, on the way back to the car, it was just another scavenger hunt.
He's got a color blindness, so he can, greens are yellow to him and blues or something, but he can spot things from a mile away.
And that day, something definitely caught his eye. It was shiny and too heavy to be a quarter.
I was like, well, why is it so heavy? So I just put it in my pocket. My pocket was like, meh, just hanging down.
Later that day, he showed his mom.
And he drops this ring in my hand, and my hand about hits the floor.
In her hand was someone's precious wedding ring, one so special its owners asked us not to show it.
This is a beautiful ring, and someone is missing this terribly.
Which brings us back to that reunion.
Like legally, what do we have to do?
It turns out the ring had more than sparkle, it had a story.
I had all these emotions. I mean,
The diamond had shined for nearly 50 years of May and Alan Preitzel's marriage, and now it was gone.
it was one of the most awful feelings. We kept saying, it's a thing, it's a ring, but it was more than that.
But heartbreak soon turned to hope. Cal's mom had called Costco and learned that someone had indeed reported a missing ring. So Cal returned it, but not before wrapping it in compassion. It was polished, boxed, and paired with a letter from his heart.
I kind of wanted to keep it because it was pretty and shiny. I hope you relax now that you have your ring back. That is exactly right. I did. Thanks to you.
Where I know where he parks at Costco. And
Sometimes looking down is what lifts everyone else up, especially when you choose to do the right thing.
He is a extremely special kid, and you guys have to be so proud.
One young boy showing that while a diamond is forever, kindness will outshine them all.
Pretty amazing.
It just restores your faith in humanity.
The Preitzels say they're having the ring resized so it will never slip off again. Getting a package delivered is often a faceless transaction, unless you're in Sunset Hills. In this next report, an extraordinary retirement celebration that proves kindness and dedication can turn a routine job into a lifelong legacy.
In Sunset Hills, one neighborhood came together in a heartfelt display of sign language.
Susie, will you pull this off? Yes.
It tells a story of how one man's small acts of kindness gradually wove him into the very fabric of a community. For more than 4 decades at United Parcel Service,
7144.
Ricky McWoods has been a friendly face in a brown uniform.
7522.
The guardian of precious cargo and the bearer of countless smiles.
He's a hard worker, he's reliable, he does a great job. Just an incredible guy. Everybody respects him a lot.
There have been a lot of changes in the last 42 years, from the digital tools that streamline his deliveries to the very vehicles that carry him from door to door.
All of our trucks used to be manual transmissions, and they were very slow trucks. Now all the trucks are automatic, and they get up and go.
But in a world where package deliveries are often impersonal, Ricky McWoods found a way to turn each one into a moment of genuine connection.
He goes above and beyond. I've never met anyone who cares and really loves their job, and he really shows it, so we're really going to miss him.
It's been real. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, my man.
So when this community learned that Ricky was retiring, they knew they had to do something special.
It makes me think of the corner store owner that used to be, and you'd go in and they knew everybody in the neighborhood, they knew your family. That's Ricky.
On his next to last day, he drove up to a surprise going away party, complete with signs, balloons, and even a cake.
It was very emotional. I saw one sign, I was just like, what's going on? Then I saw all the other signs, and I saw a couple of more with my name on it, and it just, my heart is full.
And it seemed that everyone at the party was sharing a story of Ricky's kindness.
My middle daughter was in a panic after a dress didn't arrive, and they contacted Ricky. He made a special trip and got it to her just in time.
I had this rug that needed to be returned, and I didn't have a sticker, I didn't have anything, and he literally came back the next day, wrapped it up for me, wheeled it out, and he just is amazing.
Ricky's retirement will leave a void, and not just for the grown-ups.
I'm gonna miss you guys more. Oh, thank you, thank you.
Whenever he comes to the door, he talks to us, and he's always asking us about our sports.
There you go.
Oh, I know it.
And our dog, I don't know what she's going to think, because every brown truck she sees, she starts drooling. He never forgets to leave treats for the dogs.
This is me.
As a final touch, neighbors pooled their resources to etch their gratitude onto a plaque that reads, "In appreciation of your many years of dedicated service."
The customers are what makes our jobs, possible. They can make or break us, and these people have made me. There we go.
In a world where so much can change, Ricky McWoods has been a constant.
I'm just so happy for you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
This is amazing, and it really is a testament to show how much they really appreciate him.
Okay, everybody, squeeze together. Let's get some pictures for Ricky. Let's send him off.
In Sunset Hills, a UPS driver is retiring. But the love and appreciation he's delivered will last for years to come.
We're really going to miss him.
And here's a reminder, we get our Making a Difference stories from you. If you know someone making a difference for others, let me know by email at mbush@ksdk.com. And there you have it, some of the people making a difference in our community. Thanks for joining us, and stay safe.